Overall, really good. As we've seen sometimes, watch your spelling. So do a spell check, really good. And what we've seen a lot of times, and I saw it specifically in this, when you design it on screen, be aware of the binding, because there are a lot of times that we couldn't see all of the text because as it was opening up, it just wouldn't open up well. So be very cognizant of when you design it and lay it out, are you going to print or are you going to do digital? And just be aware of that.
A couple things. Do away with the plastic cover. Think about sustainability. Plastic is a no-no. This kind of binding is awful. You probably saw us having to flatten it out like that. Use a spiral binding or no binding at all, which is okay. I agree with Keith's observation about the spelling. Find somebody that's not related to you, probably an English major, and have them go through. Every single page had words that needed some adjustment on it. Okay, and that's very, very important. People are going to be looking to you as a new professional. They want to make sure that the person they hire is going to be detail oriented. And spelling. I used to be a technical proofreader a long time ago. My job is to look for misspellings and sort of jump out at you. There's a lot of wonderful work in here. I think that if anything, it probably is too long. And I know that Keith made the comment before, maybe you should be 8 or so pages. I like to think that you should show 4 or 5, maybe 6 projects, and each project should have 2 to 4 pages. And within that, you should be able to show a variety of scales of work, from very intimate work that you've done for that recycled planting design, which is fascinating, to large-scale stuff and everything in between. You should probably also show, like you did at the very end, the fact that you understand construction documents, that you understand how planting plans work. And then there's all the more juicy stuff that's in between here. That it seemed to be somewhat repetitious, and there is an awful lot of very minute details which probably didn't need to be in here. You have to think about this is something which has to stand on its own. People want to be able to read it, but they're only going to spend as much time as we did right now. And when they get to some pages, I can't pick any one. Like this right here, for example, is an awful lot of detail. All good, it's important, but you don't need to show that for the portfolio.
Remember, what the portfolio is showing is it's not showing me the project, it's showing me who you are and what you can do. And so that the analysis is important, and it helped you get to that project, but for me to understand who you are as a designer, who you are as your thought process, your design thought process, that is less important than it is about the project. And so I want to know more about who you are. So I like to tell people, especially with the extent of work that you've got, you may end up having 2 portfolios. You have one portfolio that you send in to me that's got a very high level, and maybe that, like I said, it's 8 pages or so that you really just highlight the big piece in your project. But then you've got a second portfolio like this one that has all that detail. So when I call you and ask you to come in for an interview, you bring that one with you, and I ask you about a project, and you can show me the analysis or the design idea or the conceptual design that you went through. But I don't need to see that at the beginning.
Yeah. We always like to say that you just start off with your best work. And I was fascinated by this. I wish those people weren't there, because it looks like they're hiding something which is behind here. Maybe they should be over here, or just the man and the dog there was probably enough. But what goes on back here, and how does that relate to the overall project? I also like to see that rather than having to read all this, again, we're not going to spend a lot of time reading. I want to know in three sentences or 3 bullets, ideally, this is the problem. Another 3 bullets, this is my solution.
Yeah, I think we saw that. So right here with this project, problem statement, that should have been right up front here.
Yes, I thought that was. I saw the same thing too. Yeah. I'm not, again, not looking at it in a lot of detail. There's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things going on this page right here, all really important. Do we need all 5 of them for the people to understand that you know how to do really good site planning, you know how to do analysis diagrams. I'm not sure what the other things, how they add to it. So, okay, this is one project. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages. Could you reduce it down to 4 pages? Now, this pretty much does the same thing over that you've shown on the first page. But again, that's the decision that you have to make. I like this idea that there's different activities throughout the year. I've never seen that before. I think that was really very creative.
And in that too, I liked this and couldn't quite figure out how it related to these. So this told me a lot more information than I think what those images did. So consider that information versus this information to help create.
Yeah.
Because something like just as Terry was talking there. So with this drawing and this underneath it, that's going to give me a good graphic and a good information.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of time.
The vacant resource. This says teamwork. So that to me says, wow, what? And then my looking at was yours and yours alone. And yeah, I didn't get the sense of how much was yours, but again, that's something you need to show here. These are wonderful, and I wish maybe we need this right here. Maybe this whole page should be just this. Maybe we don't need all 3 of these cross sections. They pretty much show the same skill set. You don't need to once you've shown it once, you don't need to show it 3 times. And I thought this is quite fascinating. Again, I wish I had the time to understand this, but so again, you're using 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pages, and you probably only need to reduce it down a little bit. And again, this is part of the same project. This is where it started to get somewhat repetitious, but it's all wonderful work. But you need to leave something when they call you in for the interview, something more to say. This is the appetizer. What you're showing is the whole banquet right here, okay? But you need the appetizer is enough with the aroma and the sight of the food to say, wow, I want to know more about this individual.
And that's into that, one of these would have been enough. They're both excellent, but which one do you like the best? Which one do you feel represents you and your design abilities? Put that one in there, but bring the other one when you get the interview. So bring that to show that you can, that you've done more work on it.
I was fascinated by this. I wish that this is a separate page altogether, but you got to decide whether it's going to be a digital portfolio or a paper portfolio. But this will obviously be the first page, and then an awful lot going on here. I'd be inclined to kind of reduce the number here, but the fact that you've actually done stuff and built stuff, again, I don't know how much of that you actually did, but it's a fascinating concept. The fact that you're using repurposed industrial materials is a fantastic idea. And I was really blown away by this. This is beautiful. Again, I needed to know more about what the problem statement was, but this is very repetition about things we've seen already. So you may not even need this project in here. Leave it for the time you have the interview.
One thing I did notice in here, so I like that idea, but when you start to put a really long plant name and you're hyphenating 2 or 3 times and it gets really hard to read it, don't hesitate to turn them on their side and put them in there vertically versus trying to fit them in there horizontally. So, or not even put them.
Or just show 3 plants here, 4 plants here.
Right.
Give yourself more space. Yeah, you don't necessarily have to show it exactly the way you presented it in
originally.
School. So now we're starting to get to the point of, it's starting to seem somewhat repetitious, but then you end up with the construction documents, which is really good. And I love the fact that you're showing additional watercolors, which are quite exquisite.
And that's too, one of the things I like is with this here, why not put that with the project?
Oh, it's part of the living wall.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So that then communicates a whole level of information. They have the ability to do construction document. You have the ability to get your hands dirty and actually build something, and that you actually did that. So that in that 1 or 2 pages or 3 pages of that project, you could communicate a lot of things, and I'm not waiting all the way to the end.
That's really difficult, but the thought process is hard to show in here, but maybe that's done with the diagrams that you show, and again, just some little bullet diagrams. You know, this is a sequence of analysis diagrams. This is what we did. Here's how the work that we did here ended up with a concept diagram. The concept diagram flows to a master plan. Again, that's the sort of thing that you can talk about when you're face-to-face with somebody, but unfortunately, if there's this many portfolios to review, they're not going to dive into it that deeply.
And part of it too is understanding who you want to apply to. So if you're applying to our firm, we don't care about analysis. You should know that before you submit. If you're applying to another firm, look on their website, see kind of what types of projects they're working on. And if they show a lot of analysis, adapt your portfolio to show that. So make sure that you can show that you have that ability and that you've done that. But if you're just going to do the same portfolio and you're going to send it out to 30 different people, that's casting a broad net, and you may get one person that has an interest in it. But if you really know what you want to do or what kind of firm you want to work for, then customize it a little bit. You've got the information. It's just a matter sometimes of swapping out pages that can completely personalize your portfolio, and still communicate exactly who you are and what you want to do.
So that's part of the creative challenge here, you know. And I'm just looking through it. There's 4 or 5 in here which I think are definitely keepers. There's others I would say you're not I guess you have to ask the question: are you strengthening your portfolio by leaving them in here, or are they detracting? You know, I have a certain level of confidence in your ability to do things up to here because of one of the first things I saw. Then I saw a couple that maybe dipped down a little bit. So once you're up here, leave it up there. It's sort of a subtractive process at this point. You know, you want to tell them enough that that they're interested in you, but you don't want to disappoint them. Not that any work is disappointing, but you have to say that you achieved a certain level of professional competency.
And I would say that same thing too. We always say, don't put a project in if you don't like it. So if it's a project that you think you have to include because you have to include it, but you're so embarrassed by the work, it's going to show.
On the other hand, you're really proud of your work, and I can tell that. Yeah. But you don't have to show them everything.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we talk about that is when you've got a great plan like that, and you've got a great plan like this, those are essentially the same thing, even though they're different projects.
Same scale. Yeah.
If you believe that this is a stronger project, that you feel better about that, then is this really bringing anything? So you may still show this project, but maybe you're now showing this because you didn't do this in this project.
Yeah, but it's important to show the range of scales.
And scales and skills.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, first of all, it depends on what they're looking for. You know, when we send out a request, we typically like to see digital copies, which means that it should look like this.
Yeah, there's no spreadsheets on it.
That's right, because if you do spreads like that, that means you have to either enlarge it. If you're showing it on an iPad, which is okay. But if I look at it on my laptop and I don't want to see this because I then have to enlarge it and So, but think of it then as a storyboard. You know, the introductory page with the title on it, and then the next 3 pages. So there's a total of 4 that tends to tell the whole story and builds upon what they've seen already.
And I would say I prefer digital, but when you start looking for jobs, they will say in their submittal, in their advertisement, 99.9% of them now want you to upload something direct. So most of the time, you're going to want to have a digital version of it that you can submit, and then you'll want to bring a printed copy of it with you, so that as you're talking to them in an interview and they have questions, you can open to that page and talk to them about it.
They'll probably tell you how large, no more than 15 megabytes, for example.
Yeah. A lot of times what I would do is not do it in a hyperlink, but when you upload, you can generally upload a hyperlink, or you could put that into in your email back to them, that you could say, here are other resources or other elements that you can take a look at, and that's great. You can put it in a hyperlink, but sometimes those don't work in certain PDFs. Depends on what software they're using to view it.
Yeah,
so,
make sure you try it out. Once you get your final thing done, send it to somebody.